I've been really looking forward to this next interview. There's a book out called The Millionaire, Castaway. How one man lost his fortune but found a new reason on a deserted island. And he's sitting in the studio with me, David Glasheen. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dennis.
Let's go back a little bit. You're a very, very successful Sydney-sider. In what area?
Well, I started in the food industry and from my start of my career, and 2 jobs, 3 takeovers essentially, and then I quit in 1980, the corporate world, and became a consultant to the same companies. After that, and then people listened to me actually, which was interesting because prior to that, you're an employee and no one believes you know what you're talking about. But as a consultant, at twice the price.
Everyone says, yeah, you're right.
At twice the price or 3 times the price, people seem to listen. It's sort of weird. But I just got sick of the corporate world in that sense. But among other things, I've had, I basically quit in 1980 and then moved into the private world, which was a toy company, which my brother started with a little idea. That became an international idea. And I lost a few bob doing it, but I gained a lot of experience.
That's fascinating what you're saying there. When you became a consultant, everyone listened to you because they were paying you big bucks.
Yep.
But when you're an employee, they weren't listening to you.
No.
That is fascinating. And this whole story of yours sort of is a big examination of the human disposition, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the same companies I was consulting to, not new companies, the same companies that I'd worked for. So it's sort of bizarre when you think about it.
It is bizarre. You went on to build a fortune, which today would be worth around $37 million, so it was sizable.
Yep.
But then came the stock market crash of '87.
Yep.
And some personal issues as well.
Well, what comes with money is, lifestyle and lifestyle changes, and then the personal life changes, families. It was just, the pressure's enormous, when all of a sudden, the breadwinners are being wiped out. You've got a family problem, and most people don't survive.
And it took its toll.
Yeah, huge. And, so the family walked. I'm a failure. You go through all that sort of stuff. It wasn't my fault, but I saw myself as a failure because I should have been smarter. I should have known better. But no, mind you, I wasn't the only one. I wasn't on my own. There were many of us, particularly in the area that I was in, which was the mining industry. And, I never saw the idea of the money. It was just there on paper. I never had it in my hand. I was just a major shareholder in a company, and one day you're worth a fortune on paper, the next day it's worthless.
How did you cope through there?
Well, with an enormous difficulty because you're basically a liability. You feel like your mates don't want to talk to you. Well, they did, but you feel like they don't. You feel like you're like we see people on the streets.
Did you discover who your real friends were?
Oh, yes. Do you ever? If you've got enough to count on your fingers on one hand, you're ahead of nearly 90% of the world. So, and I was lucky to have some of those.
So when did you make the decision to go off the northeastern tip of Australia and live on Restoration Island, which was where the men recovered after the mutiny on the Bounty?
Yeah, well, it was a series of events, Dennis. As I said, it didn't happen overnight. The crash itself was 87, but by 1991, when the 11 o'clock on a Thursday, I think it was the 11th of November at 11 o'clock or something, when I knew the bank were going to send a guy out with the nails to nail the doors on the house, I knew my marriage was over. And I told my wife, I'm in the bank at that time, pleading with the bank to give me some time to pay them back, which I could have, and would, if they had been reasonable, I would have paid them back and more, but they didn't. They were like the guillotine people. And to see your house bolted, your kids having to be forced out, and we don't know where we're going to stay. And, we had friends who said, you all come or none come. And that was the first shock that happened, where we were invited to, my wife thought she could stay with her best friend, and her best friend said, you all come as a family or not at all. So, that was the first sort of shock to me.
And at that point, you were having marital problems.
Well, your marriage breaks down under stress, basically. And that I'm in there involved with the bank. I'm fighting with the council about a subdivision.
Could you have gone back to what you were doing before in consulting?
I could have, I suppose, but I figured deep down that I didn't want this ever to happen again. And I wasn't I figured the fact that I survived it, when I look back on it, I'm one of the lucky ones. And most people wouldn't have survived it, I don't think. And people do quite dramatic things in their lives when they're in trouble and like commit suicide. And you think about that sort of thing, and I did. And, because you feel like you're of no value, and all the negative side of life that comes out, all the bad stuff comes out. And without friendship, for example, I wouldn't have got through it, and close friends who knew I was in trouble. But you're very proud, of course, as a man, and we're brought up this way, and so we try to do it the best we can. So I tried to repair it all, and bit by bit I did. Got back into consulting, and I started earning income again. But I knew this wasn't. I just figured this was crazy. I need a total recharge, and the idea of the island came out of that basically. I met a new lady. We talked about what should we do, and the island just came out of the air basically, out of the ether. And I said, right, let's get an island. Let's run away from it. Let's get away from here. And that's a peaceful place. My idea was. And as a kid, I've grown up around the water, so I knew that was a safe haven for me in nature, water.
So in a sense, you needed to find somewhere to just
Recover.
get out of the rat race.
Well, recover, yeah. I've got to get out of here and go back into nature and look for the solution personally through my mind. And, I didn't. Medical people weren't going to cure me. I needed to cure myself.
So this is all at this point sounding like a feasible situation, but how on earth did you adapt to living on an island? You've got cyclones, you've got all sorts of things. How did you do it?
Well, I was grounded. I grew up as a Boy Scout. Dad took us to things when we were very little, from a very early age. I remember being in the bush, lighting fires, camping overnight. Dad wasn't a camping guy. He was a suburban solicitor, or city solicitor in Sydney. He wasn't an active outdoorsy guy, but he created those circumstances for us as a family, as kids. What do you do with a lot of young kids? Keep them busy, get them fishing, get them to the beach, get them doing adventure stuff. So I was grounded in that from a very early stage. So I didn't start from, totally out of the city. I knew about the bush, and I knew about fishing, and I knew about all those things.
What did you sleep under? Did you build something?
Well, on the island, there was like a little beach shack there that was there before the war, and it was just like a garage, if you like, a classical boat shed. Is all that was there, and a little fiberglass building.
At any point, did you feel lonely or cut off?
Well, in the early days, it was hard because we did. When I got there originally, I ended up meeting through my male friends. A simple idea became a business idea. So it just all got out of control. And all of a sudden we're going up there to buy an island with an investor behind us, building it to build a resort. Well, that wasn't my idea at all. But I went there on the first trip, and I landed. They're all busily measuring the island and talking development stuff with the person who was selling it, my current business partner. And I'm out there enjoying the island. I wasn't interested in what they were doing. So I went fishing and started exploring the island like a kid would, just to understand. And I knew then and there that this is where I'm going to be, but it didn't happen immediately because we had a caretaker on the island at that stage, and all of a sudden we've gone back and put an application to the council for a 60-bed resort, which we have approved, and then the Aboriginal people lodged an objection. We didn't even have the courtesy to talk to them. We went through the politics of it all. I didn't know what to do. None of us understood that that's a rude thing to do, just simple manners, really. And we thought we were all smart, but I never really deep down agreed with what we were doing. But I was just the odd man out, if you like.
But you were loving the island.
Oh yeah, well I could see what I could see immediately what I wanted to do there and what I'm now doing. So I had no, and I knew that immediately. I could, but I just envisioned it and I dreamt about it, and a couple of years later I'm back there. So that was 93, and I got there full time 97.
And you're still there.
Oh yeah, I'll be there forever. I'm dying there.
Is there anyone else there?
No.
You do one supermarket shop a year?
Yeah, basically in Cairns, a big shop. I've got it all worked out. I get to Cairns. I've got connections on the water through like the trawler boys, the prawn trawlers. They come out fishing the 1st of March, and I go down there before then for a week, and I do a huge shop, pack it all up, neatly put it on the boat, and then enjoy a ride back every year with it. And these are mates, very close mates today. And they're my backup really, the sea people, and the island provides a place for R&R for them as well. So it's all an exchange of what we both offer. Like the trawler boys are catching seafoods, and they've got freezers, and they've got TV, and they've got all the connections on a boat, which I don't have. So when it's time for a bit of R&R, I have fun on the boat, and we all come ashore. So, I've got a social sort of life, but it's not...
You've got it as social as you want.
Yeah, but it's restricted because they're working. Their job's to catch prawns. So they fish every night, and they go to sleep in the morning.
And you've got a terrific relationship with the Aboriginal community?
Yeah, well, initially it was really tough. And I'm the bully from Sydney and Melbourne. We had Melbourne partners as well in those days.
The developer.
Yeah, and we were bullies, and we were ignorant. I wasn't, but around me we were, and my family are lawyers, so you never go to court without a legal reason, and we didn't have a legal reason. We just called, we made a mistake, and we insulted them, and then they lodged an objection, which is what they should have done, and I agree with what they've done, but now it's a different world. I've got 100% support in what I'm trying to do, and they're my partners in the long term, and I want to give the land back to them, so they're all comfortable there, and we can have a sublease. So we can do all the things we want to do, and long term, I want to hand it over to them, the whole lot.
Great.
A working, going concern in the healing business.
Tell me about Boxhead.
He's my mate, Boxhead, or he's my nemesis, really. And well, I respect Boxhead, but he's a wounded crocodile. He's been shot by a local guy. He's got he swims a bit funny. He's a different looking creature. He's got a flat head.
Does he see you as a feed?
I think so. I'm not sure. It's very hard to know. Like, just because he's wild and dangerous doesn't mean to say he doesn't like me.
How often would you see him?
Well, he comes and goes. He might disappear for a couple of years, and then he comes back again. But he's an aggressive croc. We know his personality. He's different to all the other crocs, and he's humans have done some bad things to him, like shooting him, like he's got a wounded paw. So I don't think they forget. They're like the elephants, the crocodiles. They're very smart. They've survived 450 million years. They must have learned something.
Given your incredibly sort of peaceful and simple lifestyle, how do you feel when you come to places like Melbourne?
Well, I'm like a black tracker. I can get around these places because I used to be here. I haven't forgotten that. So it's just more of the same. In fact, it seems like more chaos. There's more roadworks being cut up here. The whole town, Sydney and Melbourne, are all being bulldozed everywhere in the streets. I don't know what's going on there, but that's what's going on. The cities are doing the same things as the same sort of people. They're just a bit more modern. It feels like New York. I'm in New York,
Yours is a fascinating story. I know you've been featured in documentaries. You had Russell Crowe pop by on his honeymoon.
Yeah, lovely guy, a terrific guy, and his lady.
Do many people sort of just drop in?
Well, that's why they do. You see, internationally, everyone knows about Bligh, and I think he dropped in because he was talking about another movie, another Mutiny on the Bounty movie, and. But we had a great night, and I talked about my uncle, and he wanted to know about Lockhart River. He's an empathetic guy. Look at the Rabbitohs, the footy club he's involved with. No poker machines. He wanted a football club, not a gambling place. So he's got some good ideas, and I meet people like that. And Dick Smith is another one. Like he's one of my ultra heroes. He's a great Australian with amazing ideas, and he says it, and he puts his money where his mouth is. He's a philanthropic guy. He wants to help Australians. And, we need more people like these people. And
he wrote it on a credit on the cover of the book, The Millionaire Castaway. Dick Smith quoted as in saying, one of the most entertaining and inspiring stories that I've ever read. When do you get back to the island?
Early August, about first week in August.
And I bet you can't wait.
Yeah. Well, this is what I have to do. I have to do what I'm now doing. I've got to get out there with the message. The medium is the message, as Marshall McLuhan said years ago. Nothing has changed in that respect, and I need people like Dick and in the world. I don't know where they are, but if I get the message to people, and people are everything, and leaders, people who understand what I'm trying to do, and that's what I'm trying to do by what I'm doing. So,
well, thank you for popping by here. The book is called The Millionaire Castaway. David Glasheen with Neil Bramwell as well. It is a fascinating story, and enjoy Melbourne while you're here.
I will. Thank you, Dennis.
Good on you.